All right, HTV, you can go on ahead and count us in.
Understood. Chairman is ready. Planning Commission members, you are live in 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon and welcome to the October 12th, 2020 public hearing of the Planning Commission of Hillsborough County on comprehensive plan amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate they would like to speak. You can also send a chat to Melissa if you would prefer to be recognized that way. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. Please click the raise hand button illustrated on the screen. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. Members of the public may also ask questions to staff at any time during the meeting by typing them into the questions chat box illustrated on the lower right of the screen. If anyone has any difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, please call telephone number 813-273-3774, extension 376. That's telephone number 813-273-3774, extension 376. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following the presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will then be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed, and then upon a motion, second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. I'd ask the clerk to please call roll at this time.
Joseph?
Here.
Bernstein?
Here.
Cardenas?
Here.
Dickerson?
Here.
Dix?
Here.
Dowdy?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Kress? Commissioner Kress? Moreno?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir. And
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, it looks like Commissioner Kress is having some audio issues. She put a note in the comments, so she is here for the quorum as well, sir.
Yes, I see that. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
All righty. On to the second item of business today, Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 20-15, presented by staff member Will Augustine.
Good evening, Commissioners. Will Augustine with your Planning Commission staff. The next agenda item before you is Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan 20-15.
Going in your mom's room. I can't even get a connection upstairs.
Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 20-15 is located in north central Hillsborough County along Mango Road, just north of Martin Luther King Boulevard. The subject site is a privately initiated map amendment in north central Hillsborough County, which is approximately 19.5 acres in size. The aerial shows that the surrounding area is predominantly single-family homes. The land use of residential 4, residential 6, and residential 9 predominate the area. The subject property is north of Mango Road, which is County Road 579, in the Martin Luther King Boulevard intersection. US Highway 92 and Interstate 4 are to the north. Interstate 75 is to the west, and Taylor Road is to the east. The subject site has an adopted public land use classification. It contains St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church and a rectory. The large public, quasi-public parcel immediately to the south is Mango Elementary School. The areas along Mango Road include public, quasi-public, park and recreational, and residential uses. The areas along Martin Luther King Boulevard are a mixture of office, commercial, and residential uses. Residential 4 and residential 6 and residential 9 are the predominant land uses of the surrounding properties. The applicant is requesting a residential 9 land use change. The currently adopted land use classification of public quasi-public doesn't allow dwelling units on the 19.5 acre site. With a land use change to residential 9, the subject site would have a potential build out of up to 175 dwelling units. Suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office, or multi-purpose projects are limited to a build out of 175,000 square feet or a floor area ratio of 0.5, whichever is less. This photograph is a view looking south, showing the subject property along Mango Road. This photograph is a view looking west on the subject property. This photograph is a view looking west along the northern boundary, showing the subject property. This photograph is a view looking north along Mango Road. This photograph is a view looking south along Mango Road, showing Mango Elementary. This photograph is a view looking northwest along the eastern boundary of the property. This photograph is a view looking north along the eastern boundary of the subject property. After distribution for local agency review, no objections were received. After distribution to surrounding property owners for review, no objections were received. During the Planning Commission staff review, it was determined that the request for a land use change to residential 9 is consistent with a goal, 4 objectives, and 8 policies in the future land use element. They proactively direct new growth in the urban service area, promote neighborhood design, the compatibility of new development and site design use. They further direct the protection of existing neighborhoods, gradual transitions of intensities, the integration of development, and ensure compatibility. These goal, objectives, and policies of the county's future land use element are future supported by Goal 2, 4, and 5 of the Sector Mango Community Plan. These community plan goals set out to enhance community character, ensure quality residential development and community appearance, and ensure safety and mobility. Finally, Planning Commission staff finds Hillsborough County 20-15 Comprehensive Plan Amendment 20-15 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and recommends that this finding be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Augustine. Does the applicant have a presentation that they would like to make?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good evening. I'm Michael Horner, 14502 North Dale Navy Highway, representing the applicant, St. Francis Assisi Church, represented by Mr. Joe DeVito as well, counsel for the Catholic Diocese. Again, we are thankful for the thorough review and appreciate the professional staff report and findings of Mr. Augustine. There's no question that this case has been thoroughly vetted by your professional staff. I would just note, commissioners, and I'll be brief, we do not have any opportunity for private sector development other than the church in your public, quasi-public designation. For this reason, we are precluded from having a joint partnership with St. Francis of Assisi Church for any kind of development that we might be proposing. In this case, we're looking for a highly restricted senior housing, and we cannot make application for a PD rezoning until this public, quasi-public designation changes. Will's report indicates correctly that we could achieve up to 175 dwelling units. That's achieved by multiplying 19.5 acres by our 9-unit per acre plan sector. In fact, the church intends to remain. Again, they are joint ventures in this future development. They are going to be partners with Blue Sky Communities. Mr. Sean Wilson, I think you may know it very well, has developed a number of affordable housing developments successfully in Hillsborough County under Blue Sky Communities. They look forward to working with Hillsborough County on this proposed community. We will have to go through a very arduous PD rezoning process that will get into setbacks, buffering, elevations, retention, access, traffic, etc. Those notices will go to the property owners, and we will have separate hearings for that site plan review. This process is only to remove the blue public, quasi-public plan sector designation so that we are able, in partnership with Blue Sky and the church, to move it forward with that PD rezoning. Will, if you could just move to figure 3, please, of the staff report.
Yes, sir. One moment. Oh, the staff report. All right. One moment, please.
And I just want to show the diversity of land uses that exist in this area. I'll wait until that graphic gets called up. But as the report notes, we do have a broad diversity of land use, including multifamily attached, 0 lot line, commercial, public, quasi-public. I'll just wait 1 minute here. I would also note that Mango Road is a 2-lane arterial highway. It is a level service C road, so we have no capacity limitations on the transportation network. And we would be proposing the church to remain, and any elderly housing that we propose would be in conjunction with the existing church. So while we have proposed a sketch plan in our CPA packet, that is being reformatted. That is not the plan that is being produced for rezoning. That plan will be worked and modified and revised with formal submittal probably before the end of the year. Blue Sky intends to seek funding for this development in the funding year 2021 with construction in 2022. Well, let me know if you have that graphic.
One moment, please.
All right.
Screen is ready to be shared whenever you want to.
And I apologize, I should have prepped earlier for just these 2 graphics. Commissioners, we have sent out all of our notices for the CPA. I'm not aware of any objections. We have spoken with a few neighbors. The only concern they expressed was Section 8 housing and commercial, of which we are doing neither. If this request is approved, it simply allows St. Francis of Assisi and Blue Sky Communities to proceed into the PD rezoning process for this proposed development. Absent any questions, that concludes my presentation. If we don't have that graphic called up.
It's coming.
I would also note the only other land use that's public, quasi-public, commissioners, is to the south, as Mr. Augustine noted. That is Mango Elementary. And while we have Burnett Park directly to our north, and we have, I believe, Mango Park to our northeast, and they are noted in your existing land use graphic as public uses. They are not designated in your comp plan as public uses. Churches and schools are designated specifically as public, quasi-public. So therefore, we cannot. There you go. So if you see the variety of colors, we'll keep it simple. The blue to the north is Burnett Park, County Park. The blue to the northeast is Mango Park. And you can see the diversity of land uses. To the south, the purple is Mango Elementary. To the southeast, the large square. We have a Mango Square, which is a large retail shopping center. The yellow to the west is all single-family detached. To the north of Clay Pit Road, we have some attached units, some smaller lot sizes as well. Will, if you could just move to figure 4, please. And commissioners, this is really all it's about. We want to remove the blue from the rectangle. And everything west of 579, which is our eastern north-south arterial highway, is Res 9. We want to keep, or excuse me, we want to seek the Res 9 so that we can prepare and file for a PD rezoning. That's all I have. I believe Mr. Joe DeVito, counsel for the Catholic Diocese, also may offer a few comments. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, staff and commissioners. My name is Joe DeVito. I've had the pleasure of representing the diocese for almost 40 years now, and we have been committed to senior housing. There are a total of 14 facilities throughout the 5 counties, 4 of which, are in Hillsborough County. This project is a partnership with the local Church of St. Francis, but it will also have the full support of the diocese and the bishop's office. We look forward to working with staff on the next phase for the plan development. We feel confident we'll be able to meet all of the requirements. As staff has pointed out and Mr. Horner has pointed out, consistency with the county's goals and objectives is clearly demonstrated, especially in that prior screen where you saw all the Res 9 surrounding the church. And we would ask for your approval. Thank you very much.
That concludes our presentation, Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any? Yes, I see some hands in the audience. We're going to open it up to public comments at this time. And the first person I see is Martha Painter. You have 3 minutes to provide your comments. Maybe they're not there anymore.
Martha needs to unmute herself.
Well, it says they're not attentive either. They might have left, but I'll give it a little while here. Martha Painter.
I'm here.
All right. Yes, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I live at 11411 Fillmore Avenue.
Please lower your volume.
Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry. Which is a 1-block residential street in that Presidential Manor subdivision that backs up into the church's property. I was told when I inquired about this meeting that they were wanting to build a senior living facility. I presume it's going to be a assisted living facility, or is it an independent living facility? They were going to do it in that corner that butts up into my subdivision. So I was wanting to know exactly what type of adult residential they're trying to build in there. And are they only going to have access to 579? Because right now they had opened up a small section into our subdivision that they were only supposed to use during their church sessions. But that our subdivision roads could not possibly handle that kind of volume of people coming in and out, both employees and people living there. And I didn't see any pictures showing the land use of anything on that west side of the property that backs up into my subdivision where they're planning to build. So that's my concerns, is the traffic and what exactly they're trying to build adult senior wise. Since I went back right into it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Was there anyone else? I don't see any hands raised on my side.
I don't either, and I don't think we had anyone else who signed in advance.
Okay. Okay. All right. I will give the applicant an opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate the comments of Ms. Painter. We look forward to working with her in this process. Again, we will not have detailed site plans prepared for this use. This is only the first step of a two-step process. So this is the comp plan designation so that we can proceed with those plans. Ms. Painter will certainly be contacted, and we will coordinate with her and share our plans when they are prepared over the next 3 to 4 months. To answer her question, we do not anticipate having our project access to the west. There's a driveway for the rectory, but we do not anticipate having a project driveway with our traffic utilizing that driveway that does connect through Presidential Manor currently. We are not proposing an assisted living facility. This will be elderly housing, senior housing, and it will be guided accordingly by the Land Development Code. So our plans will reflect building layout, setback, elevations, green space. The efficiency of this is really to shared infrastructure so that we don't have to build 2 different parking lots, 2 different retention ponds, have different driveways. We will be utilizing those infrastructure requirements and opportunities on site. And we will also allow for future connectivity to the church. As I indicated before, the church is not leaving. They are partners in this endeavor. They support it. They believe this, as Mr. DeVito indicated, is certainly addressing a shortfall that needs to be met in this community, and they want to be active participants in that process. Joe, did you want to mention anything as well?
No, I don't, Michael. I think you covered it all. It's not at all going to ever be assisted living. This is independent living. And only on the traffic side and the PD hearing, we have lots of data from our other facilities where, elderly housing, many of them don't own cars. And those that do, it's usually 1 car per household, much less reduced than a normal type of residential setting. But we would address all of those at the time of the PD.
Correct. And I would note we would have to file a transportation analysis at the time of that. We would also have to notify all those property owners, including Ms. Painter, within 300 feet, plus all homeowner associations within 1 square mile. That concludes my rebuttal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Horner. At this point in time, I will open it up to the commissioners for comments from them. Anybody have any comments on this item, 20-15, or input questions from my commissioners? All right. Oh, there we go. There we go. Commissioner Green, I saw you first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question. Will, what happens to the land use, the church land use designation? Let's say if the entire site is changing to residential, so the church is still on that property. So is that not reflected in the in any way in the future as a quasi-public land use?
The church will still remain and be active on the site.
Right, but
churches are an allowable use in the residential land use categories.
Correct.
So and many times we will see them labeled with a residential land use category on the future land use map. I think this one might have been picked up as public, quasi-public, because it was next to the park.
Oh, that's interesting, Melissa.
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
Okay, but on the future land use map, the color of the, of this parcel is changing to the Res 9 color. So my question is, okay, so the church is part of that,
Mhm.
but it's not reflected as any type of public or quasi-public use afterwards. Is that correct? In other words, how going forward, how will we know that church is actually on property?
Well, we don't just use the future land use map when we look at things like wanting to, for example, make projections of future growth. We also look at the existing land use map, which would be able to still show that there was a church structure on there. At the time of their zoning, they will have to less out the acreage that's being utilized by the church to calculate their project on, and they will so it will still get accounted for as part of their development. They
Okay.
I don't know if I'm answering the
Okay.
question.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah,
may.
no. The map, the comparison of the existing land use map with the future land use map. I guess that was really my question. I was wondering, so where does the church sort of show up on any future land use map?
Yeah, it won't. And theoretically, they could use the entire property as residential going forward. But if we were to look and do an analysis of how much future development potential there is in Center or in this area, we would utilize the existing land use codes, and we look for properties that are designated vacant or agricultural, and so that would pull out the church as not developed.
Okay, so it would actually be two parcels, essentially.
No.
No, I mean, it's up to them if they want to subdivide it.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to go ahead. Yeah.
Mr. Green, a good question, and I appreciate you asking that. We don't know the initial catalyst for this public, quasi-public designation. We are surrounded by the school and some public parks, so I'm not 100% sure after hearing Melissa's comment that just by virtue of the church being there constituted a rationale for the public, quasi-public. What we do know is it's there now for whatever reason, and we cannot proceed with any other development, joint venture or otherwise, without the comp plan amendment. To answer your question on how we would proceed, we would file one unified plan development rezoning. That site plan would reflect both the church and our proposed elderly housing. We would reflect the church in our site data table. We can't double count on density or FAR, so we would pull those existing credits out. And then we would have one plan, one folio, one development with two different uses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Green. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this question probably is better for Mr. Horner. I was looking at the estimated daily trips and that calculation seeming to go up, quite a bit. Is a part of that daily trips being the church activity as well, counted into that? Because that just, if it's going to be a 55, plus housing development, I can't imagine that. I know with my father being, 75, he only drives when he absolutely must have to. So I can't imagine that the number of trips is really going to be, that high. And I'm going to support the project either way. I saw those numbers and I was like, wow, that's a lot of driving. So I didn't know if, some of the church was, factored into that.
A good question, Commissioner. I would only respond that those are not our numbers. They're not based on our traffic study projections. when we file for our trip generation impact summary report to the county as part of the rezoning, we'll probably have traffic counts, and then we will go and add our specific peak hour and ADT, and also the church. So I think those numbers are high. The counts may very well reflect existing church traffic. As Mr. DeVito mentioned, this proposal for Blue Sky Community restricted elderly housing will have a very low trip generation and ADT rate. So I expect those numbers to be marginally impacted.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm also on the Affordable Housing Board, so I know that Blue Sky does, you know, really great developments. And I just would like to add that I hope that, you know, the folks that are able to live in the community and are open to, you know, everyone and not just anyone who has a specific church affiliation, because we definitely need, you know, more of these types of housing. So, thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Are there any more comments from the commissioners? All right, not seeing anybody popping up. I will close public comments and open it up to entertain a motion from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would, well, lost my place here, but I would like to make a motion that we find the proposed land use designation for HD CPA 2015 consistent with the future of Hillsborough County Comp Plan, and forward this over to recommendation for the BOCC.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Powell. You there for a second, Commissioner Bernstein?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
All right, I have a consistency finding, motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Powell, a second by Commissioner Bernstein. Is there any more discussion on this item from the commissioners? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote on the item.
Yes, sir. Chairman Joseph?
Yes.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas? Commissioner Cardenas?
Yes. Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Kress? Commissioner Kress? It looks like she's voting yes. If she can turn on her camera, and Ms. Ornita, if you can please confirm it, and then I can include her vote count in the record.
I just got unmuted. Commissioner Kress is a yes.
Perfect, thank you. Moreno?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
commissioners.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner.
you. Thank you, Mr. Augustine. All right, on to the next item. Item number 3, HCCPA 20-16, another future land use map amendment. And the presenter is Krista Kelly for this one.
Thank you. Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff. I'm presenting Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2016. This aerial depicts the site outlined in blue. I wanted to point out this big X indicates that while this is the entire project area, the amendment only applies to the northern portion, not the little leg to the south. The site is located in the rural service area. It's also within the boundary of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. It's east of Tampa and southeast of Temple Terrace and approximately a third of a mile north of I-4. I-75 is to the east bounding the property, and to the west is the Tampa Executive Airport. The site is 191 acres and used for agricultural purposes. The area is generally called the Eureka Springs area. It is reflective of a rural community, primarily to the south of the amendment site. The Tampa Executive Airport and the urban service boundary is very reflective of the distinct change in development pattern. To the east, you see rural, and to the west, beyond the airport, it becomes urbanized and the uses become more intense. The subject property is in the rural service area, and public water and wastewater, it's not available to the site at this time. These are photos of the site. The amendment site is referred to often as the dairy property. As you can see, it's pasture land with a tree line. To the east, this is I-75. I included another aerial to illustrate that this is the amendment site and here's the airport, that the airport is buffered by a tree line that extends along the western boundary of the property. The site's currently designated residential 1 in the rural service area. Again, the surrounding area to the south is also residential 1, with the airport being reflective of public, quasi-public. The applicant's requesting light industrial planned land use category, as you can see in the light gray coloring. While this land use designation isn't found directly adjacent to the site, there are mixtures of warehousing and industrial type uses as you extend westward into the urban service area. The impact of the change from residential 1 to light industrial plan primarily is the elimination of the residential use of the property. Currently, up to 191 dwelling units may be permitted. LIP does not allow residential use. Non-residential use on the site currently is dependent on meeting locational criteria, which the site does not. Under the LIP land use category, the FAR is 0.75, which would allow approximately, at a maximum, 7 million square feet of non-residential use. The county-wide average, staff evaluated the average size or FAR for light industrial planned, and it's 0.088. And as a result of the lesser FAR, the square footage is greatly reduced to 900,000 square feet in that general vicinity. This amendment was distributed for agency comment and no objections were received. Development Services noted that public water and wastewater facilities aren't available to the site, however. The Tampa Executive Airport responded that they found the site compatible with the uses associated with the airport. And again, no objections were received from the school district or Plant City. In terms of future review and requirements at the time of rezoning, the Department of Health and Environmental Protection Commission noted that the wetland impacts would have to be evaluated and regulated. Staff reviewed it for consistency with the comprehensive plan, finding it inconsistent with the rural areas strategy of the comprehensive plan, future land use objective 4, policy 4.1 and 4.2. Basically, the rural strategy is to maintain densities of 1 unit per 5 acres and greater, to preserve rural communities and the viability of agricultural activities and the economy, and to prohibit extension of public facilities into rural areas. Further, the comp plan seeks to protect neighborhoods and existing neighborhood identities. It requires gradual transitions between uses, buffering and screening, and overall it seeks to promote development that is compatible and complementary between uses. The community design component further describes and defines compatibility. As I said earlier, the sites within the boundary of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan, the proposed change to LIP is inconsistent with the vision and strategy for the Eureka Springs area, which is intended to promote and recognize neighborhood identity, in this case, the Eureka Springs community. And by preserving that area, it seeks to maintain and retain the designation of residential 1. Based on these findings, the Planning Commission staff finds that CPA 2016 is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and recommends forwarding this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Is there a presentation? Does the applicant have a presentation that they would like to make at this time?
Good afternoon, good evening, commissioners. This is David Singer. Can you all hear me and see me?
We can hear you. We can't see.
You. Yeah.
All right, hang on.
There we go.
I see your screen. Now we see you.
Now can you see me?
Okay.
Okay, can you now see both me and the beginning slide?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good evening. It is a pleasure to virtually be here with you. I'm currently sitting in Stantec's offices, which is why I'm wearing a mask. There are several of us here. I'm going to assure you we are now socially distancing. Everyone has moved away, and I'm going to remove my mask so that you can see me and hear me a little better, so I'm not so muffled. Again, I'm David Singer, the law firm of Shoemaker, Loop & Kendrick at 101 East Kennedy. We're excited to be here tonight to present what is an exciting first step in a very exciting project for Hillsborough County. The applicant's team tonight, in addition to myself, my colleague Colin Rice from Shoemaker, from Stantec, Adam Carnegie, and Alexa Rotberg, and the applicant and owner of the Motor Enclave, also Brad Olashansky. You'll hear tonight from me, from Mr. Carnegie, and Mr. Olashansky, and we're going to give you what we believe are the necessary justifications for why the LIP designation is not only consistent with the comp plan, can be found to be consistent with the comp plan, but also is compatible with the surrounding area, and why as a community we should be excited about moving this project forward. To understand why the LIP designation is consistent and compatible, it's important to understand what this Motor Enclave project actually is. So we have 191 acres of land directly next door to the Tampa Executive Airport. The Motor Enclave is a community of 350 garage units, and these units are used to store cars that are not for everyday driving. And you can see where the garages will be located by the white rectangular buildings on the concept plan. And what this does is create a community of auto enthusiasts. There will also be a 1.5-mile track where owners can drive their cars. And this is not a racing facility. There's no racing, there's no competitions. To the north, there's going to be a smaller off-road test track, and you can see that outlined in the thinner gray lines. This is a place to safely drive vehicles in a controlled environment. There's also going to be driving schools happening here, law enforcement training, and opportunities to test the latest innovations in the automotive industry with collaborations between car companies, engineers, and our university communities. It's a very exciting prospect for Hillsborough County. There will be an event center that you can see. If you look at the orange circle where it says vehicle pad, just to the right of that is the event center that's going to be used to host charitable functions, corporate events, other occasional community gatherings. In total, on this 191-acre parcel, we're capping out development at under 585,000 square feet. That's a 0.07 FAR. And for reference, as you heard and you saw in your staff report, the average amount of development in the LIP designation is at the 0.88 FAR, a little over 900,000 square feet. We're going to come in way less than that, way less than the average, and incredibly lower than the Planning Commission staff's kind of worst case scenario projection of millions of square feet of development. That's not what's happening here. Looking at this concept development plan, you can see the vast majority of acreage on this site is going to remain undeveloped. There's significant wetlands on this site, and in coordination with EPC and DEP and SwiftMud, they are going to remain protected, and green space is going to be kept at a premium. So why LIP? The most important features of this designation for this parcel in this location for this project are: number one, it requires a companion PD, a site plan controlled plan of development that is approved by the Board of Commissioners, and it prohibits residential uses. So let's take these one at a time. First, the requirement of a companion PD means that only developments that are deemed appropriately compatible by the board can be developed here. It eliminates the worst case scenario situation as contemplated by the staff report. Does 7 million square feet of development make sense here? No, it does not. And the BOCC, through the companion PD plan, is going to make sure that that's not allowed. The LIP designation has built-in protections against incompatible and inconsistent development. Second, when you're looking at this site, actually it's the Res 1 designation that is the inconsistent, incompatible designation. This site sits on what was a very active landfill, and it is still monitored today by Hillsborough County. As you've seen and as you've heard, it also sits directly next to an airport where airplanes fly in and out at low altitudes. For those two reasons alone, this site is never going to be residential. It's simply not compatible to build residences over a landfill and so close to airplanes that are landing and taking off. Now, we know that from common sense alone, but if you need more justification, look to the private market. This site, which is fairly large and allows for residential, remains and sits undeveloped. So understanding the particularities of this exact parcel, there is very little that could actually be traditionally developed here outside of warehouses, storage space, and support offices. All of these uses, even irrespective of the Motor Enclave project, actually fit into the LIP designation. Now take the additional step of adding the companion PD restriction, which calls for the cap at 0.07 FAR while preserving the wetlands, not interfering with the airport use or having any worries about the underlying landfill. And we're left with really two options for any compatible designation for the site. It's either an expansion of the PQP use for the neighboring airport or this LIP designation. The current Res 1 designation simply doesn't work here. The airport has no objection to this LIP designation or the underlying use that we're proposing. And for these reasons, the LIP designation is a comp plan designation that remains, that is actually reasonable, that is actually consistent, and that is actually compatible. So if you take a look at these photos, you will see kind of the character and the scope of what's going to be the interior of some of the garages. But what I want you to really focus on is the aerial in the bottom left. This is an aerial of the existing Motor Enclave project in Pontiac, Michigan. It's very similar to this proposed project here. and developed by the same applicant. I want you to note the significant residential character of the neighborhood where this parcel sits. It's virtually surrounded by residential use. And as you'll see, and you'll hear later from the presentation, is absolutely and completely compatible with the residential uses. And I won't ask you just to take my word for it. We're going to provide you with stories from some of the people who were involved in the project in Pontiac from conception to today. Now, in terms of compatibility, again, of this LIP designation, I want to go back to exactly where this parcel sits geographically. It's in the northwest quadrant between I-75 and I-4. It borders I-75 and it borders the executive airport. It's in the rural service area where we don't want residential sprawl, and making the current Res 1 designation actually incompatible. What we do want here is a designation along with a plan for development for this site, which the LIP designation demands, that will be low density, that prioritizes open space, and that preserves wetlands. And you achieve all of that with the LIP designation. Lastly, for my part, take a look at the practical differences between an incompatible Res 1 designation and a proposed much more compatible designation. This parcel under LIP will have a far lower FAR. This parcel will have 0 incompatible dwelling units that we know can never be built anyway. And this parcel will generate far fewer daily trips than even the current Res 1 would allow for. We can say all of this with confidence because of the requirements put on any applicant who wants to develop within an LIP designation. The enormous benefit of the LIP designation is, again, it must accompany this PD plan that will, if both are approved by the BOCC, ensure compatibility and consistency with the surrounding area. In this case, a parcel bordered by I-75 and the airport and some residential. And to understand how this practically is going to work, I'll put up a schedule here. There is going to be a transmittal hearing on October 22nd, and then a ZHM hearing for the zoning on November 16th. And both the plan amendment and the PD zoning come in front of the BOCC at the same time, at the same hearing in December. So there is a complete coordination and understanding of exactly what the BOCC would allow for in this case on this site. With all that in mind, and that's a lot of information in a condensed period of time, we're going to get a little more particular, and I'm going to turn it over to Adam Carnegie, who's going to go over some of the other particulars that will allow you to have a finding of consistency and compatibility with the LIP designation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Adam Carnegie. I am applicant's planner. I'm with Stantec, 777 South Harbor Island Boulevard, Tampa 33602. Just to kind of outline how we will talk about consistency and compatibility, these are the items I'm going to touch on. Compatibility with residential, the natural resource and open space preservation strategy of the project, and as required by the LIP, the required site plan that goes along with that, how we interrelate to the rural service area and the utilities policy and the adopted community plan. Let's talk about residential compatibility. And as David mentioned, the M1 Concourse project in Pontiac, Michigan allows for us to look at how this will actually impact what you see here as a very dense residential area. If you look at the two sites, to the top left and bottom right, you will see that they are very, very consistent. An applicant has learned a lot about developing these kinds of projects within a residential fabric. As you can see, we use, for example, buildings to serve as vertical separation and mitigate impacts between anything that could happen on the performance circuit and the exterior of the residential uses, the exterior residential uses. So we have project components with similar layouts, similar placement, but the Motor Enclave Tampa site is going to employ wider and superior building setbacks, landscape buffers, and screening within the buffers. That all will be translated and mandated through the concurrent PD rezoning. Residential compatibility is called for under policy 1.4, and here you see, just looking at the bottom line of that policy, there must be sensitivity of development proposals in maintaining the character of the existing development. That sensitivity comes from, as you see in the green outlined areas, really large buffers, really large or much larger building setbacks. And you see a table at the bottom indicating the magnitude of those buffers and setbacks. Careful garage building placement to make sure that those buildings provide a wall, so to speak. Maintaining mature trees as screening in the perimeter buffers, and there are many, many mature trees along those in those buffers. And then to mandate how the performance circuit, the event center, the vehicle dynamics pad, and the off-road area will function. There will be no racing. This is not a racetrack. This performance facility is for a couple of cars out there at the same time, where the owners of these garages drive them in a very safe environment. Full compliance with EPC and county noise requirements, no lights, no driving after dusk, all of that implemented through the PD. The compatibility of the rural character is in part implemented by preserving natural resources and open space on site, as called for by policy 14.3. Commissioners, there are 63 of the 191 acres that are wetlands and other surface waters. A lot of those within the landfill area that you see at the northern part of the site in light green, light yellow. This PD site plan, the required site plan under the LIP designation, which has already been filed with the county, which is in process with the county, which is being reviewed by the county, which Planning Commission staff has seen, but felt constrained to not pay attention to in their analysis, preserves 89% of those wetlands because we're using an FAR of 0.07. And that is akin to, just so you have a real feel for it, a 1,500 square foot home on a half an acre of land. Then there's a layout of project elements, the various
Mr. Carnegie. Mr. Carnegie, at the end of your 15 minutes.
We touched on, we are consistent with the plan there. Likewise, we're not urban scale development, can't be because of the FAA.
I think you're at the end of your 15 minutes.
Traffic impacts much less. May I go forward?
No, you're at the end of your 15 minutes.
You're at the end of, your 15 minutes is up.
I will wrap up with 2 sentences.
Thank you,
Yep,
thank you.
Certainly. Importantly, there are public utilities available to this site. The airport has public sewer, and there is a public health hazard exception in policy 4.7 that says we can connect to public sewer. Septic tanks have been proven to cause a problem with the Tampa bypass canal water quality, and so that's the policy under which this development would be consistent. Likewise, we're also consistent with the East Lake Orient Community Plan, which was last updated 12 years ago, in that residential uses are not required here, and you'll hear several neighbors expressing their approval tonight. So we ask you to find this consistent, commissioners. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad Olshansky, who just has a few thoughts to share with you before we close.
Actually, I will hold. Mr. Olshansky, you get 3 minutes to rebut after the public comments. You can use that 3 minutes for Mr. Olshansky to make his statements because we're pretty far beyond your 15 minutes at this point in time. So I would ask that you refrain those comments for the 3-minute rebuttal that you get at the end of the public comments, if you wouldn't mind doing so for us.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Olshansky. All right. We will open it up to the public at this point in time. Does anyone from the public have any comments? I'm on the wrong screen. Now I'm on the right one and I don't see any hands raised from the public. Oh, I saw one go up, one come down, one go up. All right.
I think Elizabeth Belcher has a hand raised. If anybody else is interested in speaking, if you go ahead and raise your hand now, then we'll know to call on you in the order that they're raised.
Yes, thank you. All right, Elizabeth Belcher, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Felcher. Am I on the, okay. First, the land subject to the land subject to this land use application is separated by I-75. Part of it is on the east of I-75 and part of it is on the west. The applicants are asking for a change only in the area of west of I-75 and not the entire parcel. How can a land change only a part of the parcel? Isn't this a slippery slope? Allowing parcels to be split in multiple ways to allow land code changes? The land code map could easily end up as gerrymandered as the Florida is. How will anybody ever be able to determine what land code applies to what portion of the parcel? At a minimum, this application should be changed to reflect that all the parcel is subject to rezoning, to land code changing. Again, many years and many taxpayer dollars have surveyed what should be used for the land use in Hillsborough County. And again, the recommendation has always been to infill before you build on rural land. And third, this is deja vu all over again. For those who've been on the board for several years, remember the fiasco at Walmart on Bloomingdale? This was the land code change allowing one developer to build on a property by evading the rezoning requirements and not notifying surrounding property owners. This has resulted in horrific traffic problems that is now costing the citizens of Hillsborough County millions of dollars in road expansion repair. This request is even more serious than the Bloomingdale fiasco. This parcel is on wetlands. If you look at the map, it appears that the wetlands cover more of the land than the dry land. If this change is allowed, what will happen to our wetlands? Unregulated sprawl can be addressed by spending millions in taxpayer dollars. But once the wetlands are gone, they are never coming back. Is this what you want to do? Destroy our limited wetlands for big boys to play with their expensive toys? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. All right, I don't see any more hands raised at this time, and I assume you didn't get anybody sign up before.
I'm just checking with Lionel to see if there was anybody else who, when they registered, indicated that they wanted to speak.
Okay.
I'm checking right now.
Okay.
Registered, but none of them stated that they were wanting to speak. So we have.
All right.
All right.
All right, we will move right along then to the applicant's rebuttal. Mr. Olashensky, you have 3 minutes.
I appreciate it, commissioners. We've been working very hard over the last, I think, 18 months getting to this point, and I appreciate your time and analysis. I'll keep it very brief, and I'll just say this is a replication of an exact project I built here in Michigan, as you've heard. We spent a great deal of time learning from everything we built here in Michigan to adapt to the site in Florida. One comment on the person who just spoke. We actually have gone through immense efforts to protect the wetlands. But let me just play a very quick video that shows some officials here from the county and city in Michigan of what their feelings are about the project and its compatibility with here, and will be similar there. Hopefully that can play. Hopefully it's only, I think it's only a minute and a half.
Lionel, would we be able to share my screen so that the video can
It's on, the screen's on, Adam, you just gotta hit play. Hit play, I just don't know about audio.
Pardon me, Brad?
Your screen is showing on my screen. I can see the video screen, just hit play. Turn the volume up.
Okay, very good. We'll play it now.
Volume up. You need volume there, buddy.
Okay, you need to make sure that your computer audio can translate to the webinar, like when we did the practice.
It's not?
No.
Okay, what would you like us to do?
There's a setting on your computer that allows your video audio to be able to go through your
Yeah,
speaker.
we have not changed that. And that's why we practiced.
Click on the
Yeah.
little microphone on the bottom. Maybe it's not turned up there. On the left side there, on right by the play button, Adam.
The volume for it.
No, the volume's right. The volume's up, Brad. This worked before and now it's not working.
Of course, that's the way every live demo happens this way.
Yeah. Well,
that's why rehearse and rehearse.
I'll try it one more time.
I can lightly hear it, but not enough. Let's just do this. Let's let it play, and I'll just tell you that this is very positive commentary from the chief county official, the treasurer of the county, the sheriff of the county, and the mayor of the city of Pontiac, which I went through painstaking efforts to get, and unfortunately you can't hear it. So they're basically saying, one is the project was great, two is they're encouraging you to approve a project like this, and three is they're talking about the fact that not only the neighbors, the community, and the county have benefited greatly from it. We've spurred significant economic development in the area. We've become a large taxpayer of new taxes. We've taken a site that is blighted and basically, dead with a landfill in Michigan similar, and turned it into an economic benefit. And we've been compatible in an area that, to be honest, in Michigan is probably 10 times more residential and 10 times more, issues, being in the middle of a dense area. I apologize you couldn't get the audio, but rest assured that all these people on screen have given very positive recommendations for the project. And the last thing I'll say is we also obtained, I don't know if they'll play or not, but we have 3 neighbors that are adjacent to the property, right at the borderline of this property that we're proposing in Tampa, and have given videos of support for the project. And it was very briefly shown in one of the slides, but I did Zoom meetings with neighbors because we couldn't obviously meet in person, and talked to many neighbors, and had mostly positive support. A couple people were concerned about traffic on Eureka Springs Road. We actually adapted the location of the site and moved it to Falkenberg Road as a result. So basically every concern that we've seen, we've taken into consideration. That's why we've spent so much time and effort over the last 18 months, sort of getting everything in order to make sure it's not only compliant, but is applicable and appropriate. And we've taken all the concerns into consideration. So I'll stop there because, I know we're probably over my time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olshansky. All right. So rebuttal, I will open the floor up to the planning commissioners now for comments. If there's any comments or input, or if the commissioners have any questions of staff or the applicant. Commissioner Powell. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been waiting for this to come before us and to hear us, because I've quite familiar with some of these across the country. And I think that this is a great development that in an area that would probably never have any sort of development whatsoever. But that's just a personal feeling. I do think, and I would encourage my fellow commissioners to find this consistent, because I do believe that there are several policies that we heard here today, like policy 4.7 and some other policies that definitely would warrant this development being approved or at least being recommended by us and then forwarded over to the BOCC. I just would also like to point out that with this development, I think this is a perfect example of why our land development code needs to have some sort of updated language that allows for almost an automatic expansion of the USA whenever there's a development like this that that makes sense, that isn't going to have any sort of high impact, especially on the residential side, especially when we're it's an adjoining piece of property that to the airport, which already has water and sewer. So it's definitely going to have my support, and I would just really encourage some of my other commissioners to look at the area, look at the project, and realize that this is something that I think is going to be perfect, like for the area.
I think he might have frozen.
Okay, I didn't know if it was me or everybody. I was like,
I think, uh-oh.
oh boy. Yep, yeah, we lost them. All right, well, I'll open it up and see if there's any more comments from the Commissioner Kress. Yes.
Maybe I could help finish Commissioner Powell's sentence. I thought that he made good points. I can't imagine anyone would want to live in this area. I don't see a developer coming in to build a bunch of residential homes next to an interstate and an airport. So I thought that their argument made a lot of sense to me.
Such, Commissioner Cardenas.
Would you like to make a comment, Commissioner Cardenas?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why the join webinar has just kicked me off, so I can only get in through my phone. So,
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to say the same. It's definitely an interesting area. It already has the executive airport on one side, and the highway on the other side. Not only do I think it would definitely suit the area, but I also think it'd be an additive to the community and Tampa overall.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Are there any other comments from the commissioners? And while I'm waiting to hear back on that, I just want to double check to see if Commissioner Powell has reconnected, or if you're on, at least send me there you are. Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure we got you in for the vote. All right.
Yes, I had some technical difficulties here, like some of my other folks. But yeah, I just appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I just would again reiterate, not sure where I cut off, but just that I do believe that this is, a project that we should approve, and there's plenty of policies that I think that we can, point to, and I'm happy to make that motion later whenever that time comes for approval, if need be.
Really noted. All right, let me check around again to see if there is any more input from any of the other commissioners. Any comments on this one? Commissioner Dowdy. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask a question, I guess it would be of Krista and or Melissa, though, just to, if you can, to touch on the applicant's discussion of the fact that that development at Res 1 is not likely to happen based upon the situation with the landfill, et cetera, in the on the property as it is, because I could see benefits to this development and of its lower FAR than what could be based upon the land use they're requesting, but especially if the land is not likely to have development at the land use that currently exists on the property. And I'll let you guys chat a little bit about that.
I would like to offer that
I cannot hear you, Ms. Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, our funding was based on the community plan that envisioned that entire area as residential one. As you pointed out, the development potential in that on that site, it's debatable, and there is access to the site off of Falkenberg and Eureka Springs that was intended of a lower intensity. And so there are some infrastructure issues associated with that site that were more geared towards residential. And it was in keeping with the character of the area, the agricultural character. As you saw in the photo, the site was identified as the dairy property. So the neighborhood identity in that area is agricultural and rural residential. In this case, it seems that that site was suited for agricultural. And Melissa, is there something you want to add?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that I looked through quickly the agency comments and did not see any comment from either EPC or the health department, both of whom did provide comments, but they didn't mention the landfill issue. So I don't really have a lot to add as to whether or not that would make the property not viable for residential development. They only, EPC only mentioned the wetlands, and the health department mentioned some, discussed septic tanks needing to be mounted, but they did not really go into anything like that. So it's something we would have to investigate further to find out more about.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Dowdy, for your question and the discussion. Are there any more comments from the commissioners or questions? All right, not seeing any, I will entertain a motion at this time. Actually, I guess Commissioner Powell, you said you would like to try your hand at a motion. If you're still there?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion, hold on here, that we find HACPA 20-16 consistent with policy 4.1, 4.7, 16.2, 16.3, 24.2, consistent with the future of Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, and forward their recommendation to the Hillsborough County Board of Commissioners.
All right, so I have a motion from Commissioner Powell, and let me just get these numbers, double check these numbers here. 4.1, 16.7, 16.3, and 24.2. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I had specified policy 4.1, 4.7, 16.2, 16.3, and 24.2.
Yeah, I got you. All right, I have a consistency motion from Commissioner Powell based on policies 4.1, 4.7, 16.2, 16.3, and 24.2. Do I have a second to that consistency motion? I saw your lips move, Commissioner Cardenas, but I didn't.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Powell and a second by Commissioner Cardenas. And if there's no more discussion at this point in time from any of the commissioners, not seeing any, I will ask the clerk to go ahead and call roll.
Joseph,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Dix,
Yes.
Dowdy,
Yes.
Green, Commissioner Green, Commissioner Kress,
Yes.
Moreno,
Yes. Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
and is Commissioner Green back on yet?
No, it doesn't look like he's on the line.
Okay, motion carried 8-0.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Krista. And that looks like that is it for this meeting. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. See you guys next month. Thank you all, commissioners, for your time. Thank you, everyone who joined us.
Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.